So welcome everyone to this video. I'm hoping to get some mercy from Srimati Radhika on this her appearance day. So I'd like to do some readings, but before that I'd like to offer a little prayer if I may, to her Divine Lotus Feet. My dear Srimati Radhika, kind and merciful Karunamayi, for so many lifetimes I have only been serving my senses, and now, by the grace of the pure devotees, your eternal associates who have descended to this world, they are teaching me the ways of selfless service of divine love. So I pray that some or other in my heart this mood will come, that I want to render some selfless service to your divine lotus feet, to your divine servants, and in this way live a life of meaning and purpose. Jai Jai Radhe. So I'd like to start with this beautiful reading from Srila Rupa Goswami, Sri Radhikashtakam 1. I worship that Srimati Radhika, whose restless eyes, moving like flocks of Kanjarita birds, wagtails, playfully wander in all directions, constantly searching out her prey, Sri Krishna. Upon sighting him, like an expert hunter, she casts the arrows of her provocative sidelong glances. She is the jasmine flower for the bumblebee Sri Krishna. Just as the jasmine elates the bumblebee, she gives great joy to Sri Krishna's heart, completely making him hers. She is very mysterious with her countless deep qualities. I worship that Srimati Radhika, who wonderfully increases the fame of Rishabhanu Maharaj's dynasty here in Braj and throughout the world by inducing the Prince of Braj to give up his royal behavior and openly sport in a carefree manner with her and all the Sakis in her fragrant kund. I worship that Srimati Radhika, whose smiling, blooming lotus face expertly belittles the vast glory of the brilliant Sharad full moon, the lord of the night blooming Kumud lotus, and diminishes the beauty of all the other gopis, whose pure amorous desires are aroused by Agabid Sri Krishna's dancing sidelong glances, and who is endowed with waves of beauty, grace, and charm. I worship that Srimati Radhika, whose braided hair, beautifully adorned with clusters of many varieties of fully blossomed flowers, forcibly attacks and reproaches the fame of the tail feathers of an intoxicated dancing peacock, whose pure, unblemished cheeks are reddish and very lustrous from the juice of the tambul remnants from Madhuripu Sri Krishna's bimba fruit lips. I worship that Srimati Radhika, whose heart is always saturated with Lalita Sakhi's pure, unrestrained affection, whose sublime nature is made more famous due to sharing intimate friendship with Vishaka Sakhi, who is a treasure chest wherein she conceals the glistening, priceless ruby of Agabid Sri Krishna's prem, who bathes and dresses in her own beauty and sweetness her different bhavs for Sri Krishna. I worship that Srimati Radhika, who is enthroned as the queen of the incomparable, festive and supreme abode Sri Vrindavan, who is the presiding goddess of Kartik, the king of months, who is the foremost of Sri Krishna's innumerable beloveds, and whose fame, which destroys sins, instills desire to serve Krishna. I worship that Srimati Radhika, who considers just the outermost extremity of the very edge of the tips of Sri Krishna's toes to be millions of times dearer than her own life. Indeed, Sri Krishna is her very life, and she knows nothing other than him. Famous as the supreme initiating guru for the joyful gopis, whose beautiful eyes are intoxicated with prem, she instructs them in the arts of cleverly serving Krishna. I worship that Srimati Radhika, whose fair complexion resembles saffron, which has been ground upon a slab of pure gold, whose youthful pastimes are filled with endless waves of sweetness, whose hairs stand on end in bliss upon being embraced by Sri Krishna, whose dress is the color of the rising sun. Those who lovingly and deeply recite this wonderful Radhikashtakam, which embodies Srimati Radhika's pure sweetness, will please the moon of all auspiciousness, Sri Krishna Chandra, who is playing on the banks of the Yamuna with Srimati Radhika. Krishna himself will cause the lotus flower of the desire to serve Srimati Radhika to bloom in their hearts. If I can just repeat that last line. Krishna himself will cause the lotus flower of the desire to serve Srimati Radhika to bloom in their hearts. So this is the next one, Sri Radhika Ashtakam, number 2 by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Srimati Radhika is the brilliant jewel in the crown of Rasika maidens. She is the swan which floats upon the pond of Sri Krishna's joy-filled prem, and is the paramount wish-fulfilling creeper of Rishabhanu Maharaj's piety. When will that Srimati Radhika bathe me in her service? Around Srimati Radhika's shapely hips, which are exquisitely covered with a radiant reddish silken cloth, an excellent golden chain dances, and upon her waterpot-like breasts rests a magnificent pearl necklace. When will that Srimati Radhika bathe me in her service? Srimati Radhika's effulgence is like that of the whirl, kanika, of an exquisite budding lotus flower. Her pre-adolescence is like nectar mixed with the fleetingly fragrant camphor of her early teenage, and her slightly smiling bimba fruit-like lips display a touch of hasyaras, humor. When will that Srimati Radhika bathe me in her service? Unexpectedly meeting the whimsical prince of Braj in the forest, Srimati Radhika beholds him with apprehensive eyes. Then, with her sweet, soft words and crooked glances, she elicits an intimate exchange with him. When will that Srimati Radhika bathe me in her service? Srimati Radhika is the very life of all the Braj maidens. Like Sri Krishna, she is the fortunate recipient of Sri Yashoda's affection, and her heart is bursting with the charming, intimate affection of Lalita Sakhi. When will that Srimati Radhika bathe me in her service? Srimati Radhika embodies the supreme auspiciousness. She resides in Sri Vrindavan, always accompanied by Vishaka Sakhi, with whom she prepares Vaijayanti garlands made from the flowers of the various trees, and is therefore most dear to the wonderful chest of Sri Krishna, the subduer of the Aga demon, Aga Vijay. When will that Srimati Radhika bathe me in her service? With the sound of his charming flute, Sri Krishna reveals his presence within the kunj, and she quickly runs to him. Catching sight of him, with smiling, half-closed eyes, she lowers her head and, on some pretext, scratches her ear. When will that Srimati Radhika bathe me in her service? On summer nights in the waters of her own kund, cool due to the gentle breeze which caresses the many spotless lotuses there, she very joyfully engages Sri Krishna in water sports in the company of Lalita and other Sakhis. When will that Srimati Radhika bathe me in her service? Sri Krishna will become so pleased with that person of pure heart and mind, who, abandoning all hopes and aspirations other than Radha Dasya, humbly recites this pure Radhika Ashtakam, that he will grant them entrance into Srimati Radhika's eternal entourage. And then Sri Radhika Ashtakam by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Srimati Radhika's bodily complexion snatches away the pride of a golden lotus flower tinged with kumkum. Her bodily fragrance reproaches the fame of a fragrant lotus sprinkled with saffron powder, and she fulfills all the desires of the Prince of Raj, Sri Krishna. May that Srimati Radhika always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. Srimati Radhika's dazzling, colorful silk sari defeats the splendor of coral. She is a garden of all varieties of blooming flowers which attract the maddened bumblebee Sri Krishna, who comes to play amongst her flowers, and she worships the sun god in order to meet with Krishna eternally. May that Srimati Radhika always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. Srimati Radhika's softness defeats the fame of delicate budding flowers. Her body's coolness is worshipable for the moon, sandalwood paste, the lotus, and camphor, and her touch dispels the heat of Gopijana Vallabha Sri Krishna's amorous desires. May that Srimati Radhika always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. Although Lakshmi Devi is honored by all the worshipable damsels of the universe, the opulence of her great beauty and ever-fresh youthfulness is overshadowed by that of Srimati Radhika. Nor can Lakshmi Devi surpass her by her natural loving and playful disposition. May that Srimati Radhika always bestow upon me the service of the lotus feet. Srimati Radhika is Pandit, expert in all the celestial arts of the Ras Leela, like dancing, singing, and joking. She is adorned with supernatural praying, enchanting beauty, wonderful dresses and ornaments, and all divine virtues, and she is the topmost youthful maiden of Raj. May that Srimati Radhika always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. Srimati Radhika, by her ever-fresh beauty, ever-fresh playfulness, and ever-fresh wealth of affection, causes all the young maidens of Raj who are bound in love to Sri Krishna to tremble in anxiety. And she is immersed in samadhi upon Sri Krishna's beauty, attire, and playful pastimes. May that Srimati Radhika always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. Srimati Radhika in divine ecstasy manifests perspiration, hair standing on end, trembling, tears, and a choked voice. She is adorned with indignation, joy, and contrariness, and she wears splendid jewel-studded ornaments which delight Sri Krishna's eyes. May that Srimati Radhika always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. Srimati Radhika, upon being separated from Sri Krishna for even half a moment, becomes distressed by the ever-arising feelings of her own loneliness and great restlessness, and she is relieved of all her mental anguish upon meeting Krishna through the intense efforts of one of their messengers. May that Srimati Radhika always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. Srimati Radhika, whose darshan is rarely attained even by Parvati Devi and other goddesses, who gives great pleasure to her Sakis, who herself becomes elated upon meeting with Sri Krishna, and who is Krishna's dearest lover, very quickly makes that person who prays to her, singing this Ashtika, a recipient for the nectar of her service. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.